Hi, everybody. Welcome. On the camping announcement today, right, they did say that they're going to try to do the Scouts BSA day camps at Cabrillo this summer. I believe there's both a July and an August session. And again, my understanding is that is assuming that the county orders allow it to go forward. So certainly if
Okay.
your youth are
Okay.
interested, put it on your calendar, keep your fingers crossed. But, there's always a chance that we will, A, not be able to open the property, and or B, that the county says, I'm not really sure how the county is going to define daycare. So that will be very, very interesting. And again, I would encourage you to hope for the best and plan for the worst, so that if that doesn't go through, so many of us were hoping that we would be out of this COVID by now, right? And we would start to be going camping again, even if it was just at the patrol level. And who knows? It could be, now that we're opening things up, could be the cases rise again and we lock back down. So I would make sure that you have options in your back pocket. That's just my personal opinion. Tim, how's it going? You're dual-hatted there in a troop and a ship.
We had a big backpack up to Whitney that looks like it's not going to happen now because we aren't able to do the preparatory work, which is understandable under the current circumstances. So I think I know that they were talking about doing a merit badge week this summer and trying to come up with some other activities, depending on how the wind blows and when we can find out when we can get out and do stuff.
Now, Tim, in your How to Skipper, you all have been looking at, you have several boats that you can work on, and you all have been trying to explore whether it would be possible to work on the boats in family groups. Is that correct?
That's right. I mean, I think we'll probably, the way it looks right now, we can start to do that. And we have some of the families that have enough heft that can get out and actually do something. Yeah, we got boats that need a lot of work. So anybody's more than is more than welcome to help us, come out and help us. If they want to do that as a family, just give us a call, and if they want to come out and scrape the bottom of the boat while it's out of the water, of course, you're more than welcome to do that.
All right, thanks. All right, Teresa P.
I know the boys are going to be working on a game design merit badge, but I was just actually talking to my son right now, asking him about the virtual camping, if that sounds like something he might want to do. And that's why I was distracted.
No
And
worries.
so he said that might be something that he'd be interested. So we can talk to our scoutmaster and see if the boys are into that.
And that was some of the resources I gave you all in Roundtable Matters. So you'll notice that the BSA Outdoor Adventures website is now listing all kinds of summer camps. So as somebody who's still involved with the troop, my only concern is a lot of those summer camps, to me, seem like they're death by Zoom. It's all these online merit badges, which is awesome, but not a whole lot hands-on. One thing I really like about the backyard camping is that at least the youth are outside. I think I'm going to have Jody talk about, I think they did maybe a camp in. I think a couple of you here have. So if you've done a camp in, I want to hear about that, because my understanding is, yes, you use Zoom to facilitate some check-ins and whatnot, but the kids weren't actually on Zoom the whole time. So let's see. So Susan, have you guys done anything like that yet?
No, we haven't. We were holding out hope that, our camps were going to, that we were going to be able to go. We just got notice that our ESSR is canceled. We're still got our fingers crossed for Camp Emerald Bay for the older boys, because we put it out to the troop, and the older boys are the ones that we seem to have problems with wanting to, or getting them excited about doing a camp in. They all want to be outside. They're not excited about going camping in their backyard. We did, however, think that maybe we would break it down smaller instead of doing a troop-wide, have each patrol do a camp in, and we thought it might be more manageable and the boys might get a little bit more excited about it on a smaller level. So we're playing with some ideas, but we don't have anything concrete yet.
Great. Okay. Cheryl, I think you and Allison are both from Troop 788. What's 788 thinking about?
Coming up with a list of things to do that don't involve being on Zoom the whole time. So some activities that they can do Some of which I think include things like scavenger hunts and various types of crafts, and like GPS geocaching type trips and stuff. So yeah, we're putting it to our PLC this weekend, I think, aren't we?
Mhm.
Yes, I think
We've
it's going
got
to our
lots of good
PLC this weekend.
ideas rolling around. Some
Yeah.
really good ideas.
John from 658, what do you think?
We have had boys very interested in the online uh, merit badge things. I know Allison got me my list yesterday, I believe, and more people than I thought. So that was good to see.
I think you got some newbies in there as well, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah, we did have some newbies in there, and thank you for the advice you gave some of them. I was like, I didn't want to tell them not to take anything because they were interested, and I wanted to keep them interested.
Yeah.
So I was like, sign up for whatever, as long as it doesn't have a prerequisite merit badge, you're good. But they've been good. As of last night was supposed to be our final Court of Honor and our final troop meeting for our summer break until summer camp. We usually take like a month and a half off to recharge. I put forth the idea that we continue on with some Zoom meetings to the parents, and they weren't too thrilled about it. I think everybody's pretty much over Zoom, especially for the kids who are just getting out of school. They would like not to have to log on for a week or two. So we're going to take a week off while I kind of regroup and see what happens. We have some, we're thinking about doing some hikes around the peninsula here. So Nancy will know what this means, but I'm thinking that the Death March should be fun for them to do. And then we end up at that beach down there and then have a sack lunch at the beach at the very end of the Death March before heading back up. So that'll at least be maybe something we can do. And then I've had parents pushing for like a beach camp out, but the regulations still say can't even go down for a day because they don't want people congregating. But, these are parents who are like, well, we live near the beach and there's people down there all the time. I'm like, I don't care. My name's on the paperwork here and I'm not going to get anybody sick. So the last thing we're doing is, we're one of those troops that does test boards for ranks to make sure the boys are learning their stuff. And so we've been struggling with how to do certain things. It's very hard to do the map and compass stuff over Zoom. So we have 2 star test boards coming up, which is basically where the boys sit there and then the adults and the higher ranked boys stand in front of them being very, very stupid. And they have to teach us what they're going to teach the younger kids. But we're going to be doing that, a couple of those at my house because I have a nice long driveway and we're going to set up, nice distance apart to try to get at least that hands-on stuff, the knot tying, the lashings, the compass work, so we can actually see them do that. So I'm very afraid of losing that connection because then these guys are the ones that are going to go on to teach the younger guys, and I don't want to let that slide. So we've been struggling with that a little bit so far.
Yeah, although I will say, there's some really great resources out there. For instance, knot tying videos, and of course there's no substitution for a skill like that. There's no substitution for hands-on. But I'm like, well, hey, if other people can make YouTube videos on how to tie knots, and matter of fact, our Sea Scouts, some of the Sea Scout materials out there are fantastic. So obviously it's no substitute, but hey, youth could certainly make a video about how to do something. I know in Troop 788, we had a young man do a video on basically the totem chip, and basically there was a tree in his backyard that had to get cut down, so he and his dad made a great video. So there's options there as well. So John from 276, you guys have any ideas for us?
Well, it's like everyone else. We've been using Zoom extensively. We actually even pulled off a court of honor with an eagle ceremony this past
It was a good one. I was there.
Thank you, John. John was there as a former 276 Eagle himself.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That went really, really well, I thought, and it enabled us, especially with this one, because the Scout has a lot of family back in Europe, and they were actually able to jump in and participate in the ceremony. So it was really cool. But yeah, I can tell that the fatigue of Zoom is slowly coming in. You know, people are still using it. We still get together quite regularly on it. We haven't really skipped a beat as far as merit badges and all that. We've been actually probably doing more merit badges and ranks over the network. But you know, as you and I, you know, as you know, Nancy, our folks are very eager to get back in the field. We're still planning Whitney the first week of August, so we still have that. What the PLC has been doing instead of summer camp, when we backed out of summer camp, was we've been kind of figuring out to have like an activity fun week, and part of that is to do like an overnight camp at Cabrillo and do a lot of smaller, shorter type of things, like do an archery day or a gun rifle range day, things like that. So obviously that's all dependent upon what the county says, but we're hoping that come July 1st they'll open it up somewhat.
Yeah, yeah, that's great feedback. Hey, Jody, so Jody, you've got both 860B and 860G. So one's kind of a fairly large boy unit, and then you've got a New Start girl unit.
The girls' troop especially has been doing lots of virtual hikes and things like that. So they're practicing their map and compass skills virtually and using online resources to plan out hikes and using Google Maps and things like that to plan out hikes. And then the Scoutmaster for the girls has got lots of experience hiking and backpacking. So she's got lots of pictures so that the girls can actually see what they're hiking on. So that makes it kind of interesting. One of the things that I talked with our boys Scoutmaster about was the incoming scouts, the Webelos that bridged. Normally we have pretty intensive sessions with them to get them to rank up within the first 2 to 3 weeks of joining us, you know, because most of the requirements for Scout, they've already done for their Era of Light. Virtually, it's been a little bit harder to do that. So it's been delayed a little bit. And so what our Scoutmaster has done, he has got a Zoom, we know our normal meetings are on Wednesdays. And what he has decided is taken a couple of assistant scoutmasters and the instructors and our troop guide for our newly bridged Webelos. And they have a special meeting on Mondays from 6 to 6:45 or whatever. And all they do is just go over those first few rank requirements so that they feel like they're being included. Because sometimes during a troop meeting, you've got 35, 40 voices, faces on a screen. You don't really feel part of the team. And so what they're trying to build is that team, that camaraderie within those Webelos, just to get them engaged and to get them that scout rank and to get them on that path so that they don't taper off in the summer and think, oh, well, you know, school's over, I don't have to do this anymore. And especially with Cubbies who don't have a summer program, it's very easy for them to think, well, what do you mean I'm still doing scouts in the summer? No, I'm not doing that. So we're trying to make them feel special. And then they also have their own breakout rooms during the regular troop meetings to work on rank advancement as well. Our summer plans, obviously, camps are closed. So we do have a few backpack trips. One is the Sierra Trek that's going to happen in the middle of July. And we are going to be practicing social distancing as best as possible, only family groups, you're tenting alone, you're bringing your own food, that sort of a thing. For the Sierra Trek, we're also doing what we're calling a 2+2, which is 2 nights car camping and then 2 nights of backpacking. So we can have, and that's going to be in August, towards the end of August. And again, the campsites, they are being rented by family groups. So you could go up as a family group, camp, even though, yes, you're with the Boy Scouts, you're still just in family groups. And then those that want to do the backpack trip, they would go on a 2-day backpack and then drive back afterwards. So we do have two backpacks that are planned for the summer. Like Nancy was saying, we did do a virtual camp out over the weekend. We had about 20 scouts, boys and girls, who did the camp. They looked at the itinerary, and they were only on Zoom maybe 4 times a day for between a half an hour and 45 minutes doing various things. Then they were tasked with doing various jobs while they weren't on Zoom. So they had to do their cooking, and they had to set up their tents, and they had to go on a hike in their neighborhood, and they did scavenger hunts, and they told stories. And so this was actually all arranged by 2 of our scouts that have been since last June, have been traveling the world. They took a gap year, if you will, with the whole family, packed up everything in duffel bags, and they went around the entire globe onto all the different continents. And it was basically because of their big brother's singing. And what he wanted to do was to sing on all the continents in the world. And so he arranged for various venues, and mom and dad finally retired. Mom took a leave of absence. And so when the quarantine hit, they were actually in Egypt, and they couldn't get planes to fly back to the States. So they have been spending the quarantine, sadly enough, in Antigua. So they were able to get a flight from Antigua, or from Egypt to Antigua. So they have been quarantined, all 7 of them quarantined down in Antigua. So they were the ones who ran the virtual camp out. So they were in the Caribbean. We had our scouts here in the South Bay, and it was really, really a neat experience.
Thank you for that. Definitely.
Yes, and that's
Yeah,
really
the more
no
we can
fun.
share, the better, right?
Yep,
All right,
absolutely.
Dave, anything happening up there in PV? What are you guys thinking for the summer?
We had a really successful scouting scavenger hunt a couple of weeks ago. We had a list of 45 items or 50 items, and the scoutmaster said, "Hey, we'll be lucky if any of the patrols get 2/3 of them." And I think all the patrols got them all, so that was pretty good. We are in the process of planning a Kahoot session, Scout Trivia, and have a virtual hike planned for 4th of July weekend. I don't actually know the status of our Sierra hike. It's probably for sure on the shelf and may actually not yet. It may actually be canceled now. I don't know. We've had some good success. We had a video game designer come and talk about game design a few weeks ago too, so that was fun. Most of the parents have done a merit badge session, or maybe an information session more than a merit badge session.
That's great. If you want to share your scavenger hunt with us, that would be cool too. Carlos, you're still scouting with the troop, right?
So our boys have been looking forward to getting out and working on service hours and just itching to get out of the house. So one thing that our boys did, a couple of our boys, they went to the Seaside Heroes Park in Torrance, and they were practicing proper social distancing, but were cleaning up the park, making sure that all the weeds were taken care of, that all the memorials and the benches were cleaned up, and we, the committee, agreed that we could use those things, so things like that, as service hours for our boys.
Senior lunches.
They also did the senior lunch program that Pacifica put on. A couple of our boys did that, and we did last month using 258's itinerary. We've made our own online camp out with our boys, and what our senior patrol leader came up with, and we thought this was a great idea, was to for every month have some sort of theme to go along with it. So we do a merit badge a month over. We've been doing a merit badge a month over our Zoom meetings, and they decided to do a second one this month and tie it in with our patrol meetings and the camp out. So we were doing collections merit badge over the month, and then they're also having all of their meetings themed around knots and lashings to kick off pioneering merit badge at the camp out and then talk about it 2 weeks later as our merit badge meeting for the month.
Great. So using that program theme model that you can find on Troop Program Resources on the national website. That sounds great. All right. So we've had a couple of ideas come up. So I think service is a great option. And again, those of you that are trying to build a relationship with your chartering orgs, if your chartered org has any ideas, a lot of our chartered orgs that are civic organizations like Rotary clubs and Kiwanis clubs often change officers at this time of year. So make sure that you catch those people. Think about who so I got to sit in on the National Membership Group's webinar yesterday. I'm hoping to find where they're going to post that webinar. I thought it was great. They're going to be having that they say every couple of weeks or so. And one of the things they pointed out is if you have, for instance, this would be more applicable to Cubs, but I think we can think about it even the older programs. If you have, for instance, a school or someplace that you normally would recruit from, if you can work out a way to do some kind of service for them. So I realize right now schools aren't letting us on their property, but for instance, perhaps as they start getting ready to ramp up to have students back, perhaps you could do things like, staple the backpack packets or something like that. So think about, are there ways that you could develop relationships and serve either your chartered org or a potential recruiting ground now? And again, like Carlos said, in a way that you could do it in family groups or individual groups or socially distant. I think you kind of have to, at this point, kind of be planning almost three things at once. One, what if we can just go back to business as usual and we can do our treks? Two, we can't go back to business as usual, but the family restrictions are lifted and small groups can gather. Okay, well then maybe we can do patrol activities. Or three, what if we can, okay, we can't do it as groups at all. Can we do something like a scavenger hunt where the scouts are out and doing something and then come back and then kind of report in as a group? Please keep those questions coming. Please keep those benchmarks coming. Again, I don't know if you all remember, but in the Commissioner Corps, we assigned zones, and one of our hopes was within those zones, you'd be working together. So PV units like 658 and 128, they would sort of form a cluster and be giving information to each other, and then, of course, growing outside of there. So if you're not sure what other troops are in your sub area, or you're not sure, hey, I know that there's probably a troop that meets, at the next church over, at the community center. I don't know their leadership. Please let me know. I'm happy to connect you all. And I think, the more we can share our best practices and experiences, the less time we'll spend trying to reinvent the wheel. And the more time we'll be saying, in improv, they like to say yes and. Oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that and let's do this.